The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was built from crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Today, beings from hundreds of different worlds had come here for a very important meeting. Ambassador Jinwoo Kim walked through the huge halls, his black suit looking plain next to the fancy clothes and strange body parts of the aliens around him. Some had metal arms, others had glowing skin, and a few floated in the air without touching the ground. Jinwoo felt like a child at a grown-up party. The main meeting room was enormous. Thousands of seats rose up in circles, each one designed for a different type of alien body. At the center stood a very old creature called Vorthan. He had 6 long arms, silver skin, and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. His people were called the Watchers, and they had been studying the galaxy for 10,000 years. Vorthan lifted all 6 of his arms. The room became quiet. Even the air seemed to stop moving. "Friends from across the stars," Vorthan said. His voice was deep and sad. Magic machines translated his words so everyone could understand. "We are here to talk about the humans. They have left their home planet Earth and are exploring space. I have watched them for many years. We must be very careful." Loud laughter came from one section of the room. Admiral Krexter stood up. He looked like a giant insect with sharp claws and a mouth full of teeth. His people, the hegemony, controlled hundreds of worlds. Careful of those weak humans. Krexter's teeth clicked together as he laughed. They can barely fly to their own moon. Their ships are slow and ugly. It would take them 50 years just to reach the next star system. Other aliens started laughing, too. The ethereals, who looked like living light, began to glow brighter with amusement. The construct machines made beeping sounds that meant they thought it was funny. But Vorthan did not laugh. His ancient eyes looked worried. "You do not understand. Humans are different from every other species we have ever seen. When most beings face something impossible, they give up. When humans face something impossible, they find a way to make it possible." A human woman stood up. Dr. Mayun Park was a scientist who studied alien life. She was the only other human at the meeting besides Jinwoo. "Honorable beings," she said politely, "we come in peace. We only want to explore the stars and make friends. We have no interest in fighting anyone." The leader of the ethereals, a being made of pure glowing energy, pulsed with angry light. "Peace only exists when there is order. Humans bring chaos wherever they go. We have seen their history. They fight wars on their own planet. They destroy their environment. They cannot be trusted." More aliens agreed. A creature that looked like a walking tree said humans were too violent. A being made of living metal said humans were too unpredictable. One by one, they all spoke against humanity. Vorthan tried again. "Please, listen to me. I have studied many species as they grew from primitive to advanced. Humans are special. When they are pushed into a corner, they do not break. They become stronger. When they face an enemy they cannot defeat, they learn how to defeat them anyway." "Impossible," said Admiral Krexter. "No species can evolve that fast." "Humans can," Vorthan replied quietly. "I have seen them do it. In their wars, they go from fighting with sticks to building atomic weapons in just a few years. They adapt faster than any other species in the galaxy." But no one listened. The aliens had already made up their minds. They looked at the small human ships and saw weakness. They looked at Earth's simple technology and saw primitives who needed to be controlled. The vote began. Giant screens showed numbers as each species cast their decision. The final count appeared in glowing letters: 847 votes for protective intervention, and only 12 votes against. Jinwoo felt his heart sink. Protective intervention was a nice way of saying invasion. The galaxy had just voted to attack Earth. As the meeting ended, aliens began leaving to return to their ships. Soon, Massive fleets would head toward Earth to force humanity to surrender. Vor walked over to Jinwoo and Dr. Park. His 6 arms hung low with sadness. "I am sorry, young humans," he said softly. "I tried to warn them, but they would not listen. They think you are weak because your technology is simple. They think you will surrender because your ships are small." Jinwoo looked up at the ancient being. "What do you think will happen?" Vorthan's old eyes seemed to see far into the future. "I think they are about to learn why my people have a saying, 'Never wake a sleeping giant.' They are about to discover what human wrath really means." Dr. Park asked, "Will you help us?" The old watcher was quiet for a long moment. "My people have been neutral for thousands of years. We only watch, we do not interfere." He paused. "But perhaps it is time for that to change." As they spoke, the alien fleets were already preparing to leave for Earth. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 6 months had passed since the meeting at Nexus Prime. Now, a massive alien fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like dark clouds, bringing a storm. Admiral Krexter stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet through the main viewing screen. His insect-like face showed confidence as he read the battle plan on his computer. It was always the same. Show up with big ships, scare the primitives, make them surrender, then move them to prison planets. Easy work. "How many ships do the humans have?" asked his second-in-command. "Our scouts report maybe 200 small vessels," Krexter replied, his sharp teeth clicking. "We have over 1,000 ships, each one bigger and stronger than anything they can build. This will be over in a few hours. Far below on Earth, in a secret room buried deep under Seoul." President Ji-Soo-han watched the alien fleet on glowing screens that floated in the air. The room was full of people in military uniforms, but something was different. For the first time in human history, generals from America, Russia, China, Europe, Africa, and every other nation worked together as one team. General Soo-young Choi from South Korea stood next to General Williams from America. 6 months ago, their countries had been competitors. Now they planned strategy together like old friends. "The alien fleet is bigger than we expected," said General Petrov from Russia, studying the numbers. "Size isn't everything," replied General Chen from China. "David beat Goliath with just a stone." Communications officer Dong-Yoon Lee suddenly looked up from his station. "Ma'am, they're sending us a message." The alien voice came through the speakers, cold and commanding. "Humans of Earth, you will surrender all weapons immediately. You will submit to relocation to designated worlds. Any resistance is futile and will be punished. You have 1 hour to respond." The room became very quiet. Everyone looked at President Han. She was a small woman, but her eyes held steel. "Send our response," she said calmly. Dong-Yoon's fingers moved over his keyboard. The message went out to the alien fleet in every human language: English, Korean, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and dozens more. Then it was repeated in the alien's own language. The message was just one word: no. Admiral Krexter could not believe what he heard. They said no. These primitives dare refuse the hegemony. "Perhaps they do not understand our power," suggested his aide. "Then we will teach them," Krexter snarled. "Begin the attack." The first battle began at 1430 Earth time. Alien ships, each the size of a small city, opened fire with weapons that could destroy mountains. Earth's ships were tiny compared to the aliens, like insects fighting elephants. Captain Hunwoo, Nam commanded the destroyer. Seoul's pride. His ship shook as alien energy beams hit it again and again. Smoke filled the bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. "Captain, our weapons are offline," shouted his weapons officer. "Then we use the ship as a weapon," Hunwoo said firmly. "All remaining crew to escape pods. Set collision course with that big alien ship." His crew stared at him. "Sir, That's suicide. No, Hyunwoo smiled sadly. That's buying time for Earth. The Soul's Pride flew straight into an alien battleship. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and metal. This same scene happened again and again. When human ships lost their weapons, they rammed the aliens. When space stations were about to be captured, humans blew them up instead of letting the enemy have them. But the strangest thing happened during the battle. Every human ship broadcast everything they learned to all the other human ships. When Captain Park discovered that alien shields were weaker on the bottom, she immediately told every other human captain. When Lieutenant Kim found a way to jam alien communications, he shared it with everyone. Admiral Krexter watched this with growing confusion. Why are they sharing their secrets? We can hear their broadcasts too. Unknown, sir, replied his intelligence officer. No species has ever done this before. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 37 human ships were destroyed, and 2 space stations were gone. The alien fleet had lost only 8 ships. A great victory, announced Krexter to his fleet. But as he read the detailed battle reports, something bothered him. The humans had fought strangely. They did not retreat when they should. They did not surrender when beaten. Instead, they kept fighting until their ships were completely destroyed. Captain Hyunwoo Nam floated in space in a small rescue pod, watching the wreckage drift around him. Pieces of human and alien ships mixed together in the darkness. He was hurt and tired, but he was smiling. Why are you happy? Asked another survivor over the radio. We lost. No, Hyunwoo said, looking at the data pad in his hands. We learned. Look at this information we gathered. Now we know how their shields work, how their weapons charge, how their ships move. Every human who died taught us something new. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Krexter stared at his reports. Something was wrong. His easy victory did not feel like victory at all. Sir, said his aide nervously, our damaged ships report that human weapons were different in the last hour of battle. They adapted their tactics very quickly. Krexter felt a chill run through his armored body. Perhaps the old Watcher had been right to warn them. 3 months had passed since the first battle, and Admiral Krexter was starting to have bad dreams. What should have been a quick and easy victory was turning into something he had never seen before. Deep underground on Earth, in places the aliens did not know existed, something amazing was happening. For 50 years, ever since humans first heard signals from space, they had been preparing for this day. Hidden factories, buried miles beneath mountains and deserts, suddenly came to life. The sound was incredible. Thousands of machines working day and night, building ships and weapons, faster than anyone thought possible. Robot arms moved like metal dancers, welding and cutting and building. Conveyor belts carried parts from one station to another. The factories never stopped, never slept, never got tired. Dr. Taeyang Shin had not slept in 3 days. He worked in a secret laboratory buried under the Swiss mountains, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that human soldiers had brought back from destroyed enemy ships. His clothes were dirty, and his eyes were red, but his hands never stopped moving. This is impossible, he muttered to himself as he looked at an alien power core. The device was smaller than a human fist, but produced more energy than a nuclear reactor. How does it work? Next to him, researcher Ji-won Park was trying to connect a human computer to an alien weapon system. Sparks flew from her workbench, and she had to jump back to avoid getting burned. The power flow is completely wrong, she said, wiping sweat from her face. Our electrical systems use different frequencies. It's like trying to put gasoline in an electric car. Engineer Seok Jino looked up from his own project. He was testing a human ship engine that had alien technology built into it. The engine was running, but it made strange humming sounds that no human machine had ever made before. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong, he said. Instead of trying to make their technology work like ours, what if we make ours work like theirs? That's crazy, Ji-won replied. Our physics textbooks say it can't work. Seok-jin grinned. When did humans ever care about what textbooks say? We flew before we understood aerodynamics. We split the atom before we understood quantum mechanics. We'll figure this out too. And they did. Day by day, human scientists learned to combine their technology with alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. They created hybrid weapons that fired faster than alien guns, but used human targeting systems. They built shields that were stronger than alien barriers, but powered by human reactors. Above ground, the war continued. Captain Yoongi Min stood in the briefing room of a hidden base built inside a mountain in Korea. Around him sat 19 other pilots, all volunteers. They knew that only 3 or 4 of them would come back from this mission alive. The survival rate for today's mission is 15%, Yoongi told his pilots calmly. Anyone who wants to quit can leave now. No one will think less of you. Nobody moved. These men and women came from every country on Earth: America, Brazil, Nigeria, India, Australia, and many others. But now they were just humans, fighting for their home planet. Sir, asked Lieutenant Sarah from Canada, what makes this mission different from last week? Yoongi smiled. Last week, we flew human ships with human weapons. Today, we fly human ships with hybrid technology. Our scientists have been very busy. The pilots walked to their ships. The spacecraft looked mostly human, but there were differences. The hull glowed with a strange blue light. The engines made sounds like singing. The weapons charged with colors that human eyes had never seen before. As Yoongi's squadron took off, similar scenes played out at hidden bases all over Earth. Pilots flew from secret runways in the Amazon rainforest, from caves in the Himalayan mountains, from underground bunkers in the Sahara Desert, up in space. Admiral Krexter watched his tactical displays with growing alarm. 3 months ago, human ships were slow and weak. Now they moved faster than his own vessels and hit harder than his best weapons. How is this possible? He demanded from his intelligence officer. We don't know, sir, the officer replied nervously. Our analysis shows they are using hybrid technology, part human, part based on our designs. But they are combining them in ways that our engineers say cannot work. Then why are they working? Unknown, sir. The worst part was how fast humans learned. Admiral Krexter would develop a new tactic in the morning, use it in battle, and by evening the humans had already found a way to counter it. Weapons that destroyed human ships on Monday were useless by Wednesday. Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving reports from all our fleets. The humans are adapting to every strategy we use. They learn from every battle, every defeat, every small victory. Krexter felt fear creep into his heart. In all his years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy like this. Most species fought the same way throughout a war, but humans seemed to evolve during battle, becoming stronger and smarter with each fight. He sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. Request immediate reinforcement. Standard pacification protocols are failing. The humans are learning faster than we can adapt. Situation critical. Deep in his underground laboratory, Dr. Taeyong Shin finally smiled as his latest creation came to life. It was a weapon that combined human creativity with alien power. Impossible, he said to himself. Humans invented that word. We can uninvent it too. The war was about to get much worse for humanity, or so the aliens thought. Admiral Krexter's calls for help had been answered. 2 of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy were coming to Earth. First came the ethereal mind fleet. These beings were made of pure mental energy, glowing like living ghosts. They could read thoughts, control minds, and drive enemies insane with fear. No species had ever resisted their psychic powers. Second came the Construct Collective's Logic Armada. These were perfect machines, each one thinking faster than 1,000 human computers. They calculated every possible move in battle, and always chose the best strategy. They had never lost a war. Together, these three fleets should have crushed humanity in days. Colonel Namjoon Kim stood in a military hospital, looking at soldiers who had been hurt badly in the war. Some had lost arms or legs. Others had seen things so terrible that they could not sleep or think clearly anymore. Their minds were damaged by the horror of battle. "I need volunteers," Namjoon told them. "The aliens have psychic powers. They can get inside your head and make you go crazy with fear. Normal soldiers cannot fight them." One soldier, whose hands shook from trauma, looked up. "What makes you think we can?" Namjoon's eyes were sad, but determined. "Because they attack your mind with fear and pain. But you have already seen the worst things possible. You have already been broken and put back together. They cannot break what is already broken." 50 soldiers volunteered. They called themselves the Broken Squad. When the ethereal ships attacked, something incredible happened. The glowing aliens tried to fill the human soldiers' minds with terror and madness, but the soldiers just kept fighting. "Impossible," said the ethereal commander, his light flickering with confusion. "We are showing them their worst fears, their deepest pain." Sergeant Kim Soo, whose unit had been killed in the first battle, smiled grimly as he fired his weapon at the alien ship. "Already lived through my worst fear," he said. "Already felt my deepest pain. You got nothing new to show me." The psychic attacks that had destroyed the minds of entire civilizations had no effect on soldiers who had already survived mental trauma. The ethereals, who had never faced such resistance, began to panic. Meanwhile, Captain Hoseok Jung was having fun confusing the construct machines. The robot ships calculated every possible human tactic and prepared perfect defenses. But Hoseok did not use tactics. He used chaos. "Sir, you're flying directly toward their biggest ship," said his co-pilot nervously. "I know," Hoseok replied cheerfully. "At this speed, we'll crash into it. I know, that will kill us. Probably." At the last second, Hoseok spun his ship sideways, fired all his weapons at random, then flew in a spiral pattern that made no sense. The construct computers tried to calculate what he was doing, but there was no logic to it. The machines began overheating as they tried to understand impossible behavior. "Logic assumes rational behavior," Hoseok explained to his squadron, "so we'll be completely irrational. Do things that make no sense. Confuse them until their computer brains explode." And it worked. Construct ships began crashing into each other as their navigation systems failed, trying to predict unpredictable humans. But the most frightening thing for the aliens was what happened after battles. Humans began taking prisoners. Dr. Jimin Park ran a secret research facility where captured aliens were studied, not tortured. Humans were not cruel, but examined, tested, and analyzed like laboratory specimens. The ethereal nervous system is based on quantum energy patterns, Dr. Park explained to her team. If we can disrupt those patterns, we can block their psychic abilities. Within weeks, human soldiers wore headphones that played special sounds. The sounds confused ethereal brains and made their mental attacks useless. "The constructs use logical programming," reported another scientist. "But what if we create a computer virus based on paradoxes? Logic puzzles with no solutions." Soon, human hackers were sending impossible math problems to construct ships. The machines tried so hard to solve unsolvable puzzles that their systems crashed. Admiral Krexter watched in horror as his powerful allies were defeated by tactics that should not have worked. "How do they counter everything so quickly?" "They study us, sir," his aide replied fearfully. "Every prisoner they take teaches them how to fight us better." 18 months after the three fleets had arrived at Earth, the war had changed completely. Human soldiers were immune to psychic attacks. Human computers could crash any construct system. Human ships were faster and stronger than anything the aliens had built. Then something unexpected happened. A small ship appeared near Earth. But it was not attacking. It sent a peaceful message. Old Vorthan, the ancient watcher who had warned the council, came to Earth alone. President Jisoo Han met him personally at a space station orbiting the planet. "I offer alliance," Vorthan said, his 6 arms spread, in a gesture of friendship. "I was wrong to call you dangerous. You are not destroyers. Then what are we?" President Han asked. The old alien looked at her with eyes that had seen 10,000 years of galactic history. "You are transformers. You change everything you touch. The galaxy has been the same for millions of years, strong species ruling weak ones. But you are showing everyone that things can be different. Different how? You take enemies and turn them into teachers. You take impossible problems and make them possible to solve. You take a galaxy built on fear and turn it into something built on hope." President Han smiled. "We're just trying to survive." "No," Vorthan said softly. "You are doing much more than that. You are showing the galaxy what it could become." 5 years had passed since the war began, and the galaxy was not the same place anymore. Admiral Krexter walked slowly through the halls of Nexus Prime, but everything looked different now. The walls that once showed only the symbols of the powerful Galactic Council now displayed flags from dozens of worlds. Earth's simple blue and white flag hung next to the complex designs of ancient civilizations. For the first time in galactic history, every species, big or small, strong or weak, had an equal voice. Krexter's insect-like legs carried him to the main chamber, where he had once laughed at the warnings about humanity. Now he was here for a very different reason. His proud hegemony, which had ruled hundreds of worlds, was surrendering. President Jisoo Han sat at the center of the room, but she was no longer just Earth's leader. The beings of 47 different worlds had chosen her as Secretary General of the new Galactic Federation. She wore the same simple black suit she had worn during the war, looking small among the elaborate aliens around her. The hegemony formally surrenders all military forces and requests immediate membership in the Galactic Federation. Krexter announced to the room. His voice, once full of pride and cruelty, now sounded tired and defeated. But then something strange happened. Instead of celebrating their victory over a hated enemy, the humans and their allies began clapping. They were welcoming the hegemony as new friends, not punishing them as conquered foes. Krexter looked confused. "I do not understand. We attacked your world. We tried to enslave your people. Why do you welcome us?" President Han stood up and walked over to the tall alien warrior. Even though he was 3 times her size, she showed no fear. "Because punishment creates more enemies," she said simply. "Forgiveness creates friends." Krexter knelt down on all 6 of his legs, bringing his head to the same level as the human leader. "You could rule us all," he said quietly. "Your military defeated our combined fleets. Your technology is now superior to ours. You have earned the right to be our masters." Han smiled, the same gentle smile she had worn when she first said no to the aliens' demands. "Rule over others. We never wanted that. We just wanted to be free to choose our own path. But if you do not rule, who will maintain order in the galaxy?" "We will," Han said, gesturing to the mixed crowd of beings around them. "All of us, together. Every species gets a vote. Every world gets a voice. No one rules over anyone else." This idea was so strange that many aliens struggled to understand it. For millions of years, the galaxy had worked the same way. Strong species conquered weak ones. Smart ones enslaved dumb ones. Old civilizations controlled young ones. But humans were suggesting something completely different. Across the galaxy, amazing changes were happening. On worlds where beings had been slaves for thousands of years, they were now writing their own laws. Species that had been considered inferior were discovering they had talents that nobody had ever noticed before. Dr. Seok Jin-oh worked in a huge laboratory that orbited the star Vega. Around him, Scientists from dozens of different worlds collaborated on projects that would have been impossible before. Hegemony engineers worked with human inventors to build faster spaceships. Ethereal psychics helped construct computers solve problems about consciousness and emotion. Former enemies had become research partners. "Look at this," said Dr. Zen, a construct machine who had once tried to kill humans. He showed Seokjin a design for a new type of engine. "Your chaos mathematics combined with our logical programming created something neither of us could build alone." Seokjin nodded. "Humans have a saying, 2 heads are better than 1. But we're learning that 100 heads from 100 different worlds is even better." They were solving problems that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. Diseases that had killed billions were being cured. Energy shortages were ending. Even old conflicts between species were being resolved through cooperation instead of war. At the celebration party, old Vorthan found President Han standing on a balcony, looking out at the stars. "I tried to warn them about Earth's wrath," the ancient watcher said, his 6 arms crossed thoughtfully. "You were right to warn them," Han replied, "but I think they misunderstood what our wrath really was." "How so?" "They thought our wrath was about destroying our enemies, but it was never about destruction. Our wrath was about refusing to kneel, refusing to accept that some beings are born to rule while others are born to serve." Vorthan looked out at the mixed groups of species below them, working and laughing together. In trying to prevent change, they guaranteed it. "The galaxy will never be the same." Han watched a group of young beings from different worlds playing together. Human children, ethereal energy forms, construct robot babies, and even young hegemony warriors. They were friends in a way their parents' generation never could have been. "Good," she said softly. It was time for something better. As the celebration continued, beings throughout the galaxy were learning a new way to live. Not as masters and slaves, not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals sharing the same stars. The humans had kept their promise. They had wanted only to be free. But in fighting for their own freedom, they had accidentally freed everyone else too. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in millions of years, that was a very good thing.